Ready?
Right, 3, 2, 1, go!
Launch CF Moto 450 MT. The new kid on the block. Oh, big moment there.
Go!
390 is the only bike with a 19-inch front wheel. He's bottoming out there. Oh, jumping, crossed up.
Go!
Right, Royal Enfield Himalayan. One of the heaviest bikes on the test. How, oh, just folded the front there.
Go! Oh.
Right, CRF 300 Rally. So arguably the most off-road bike here. That line there.
Dropped under the 3-minute barrier.
This MCN video has been produced in partnership with Bikesure Insurance.
Welcome to MCN and welcome to our small adventure bike test. I've called it a small adventure bike test, not a lightweight adventure bike test, because some of these bikes are nudging on to the 200 kilos.
Yeah.
So first up, we've got the brand new CF Moto MT450, brand new to the market. Got the Royal Enfield Himalayan, which again is the latest version of a very popular bike that probably doesn't need too much of an introduction, the Honda CRF 300 Rally. And last but not least, the KTM 390 Adventure SW. So, starting off with the KTM, Carl, we'll start with the road impressions. What's your take on it? You know, seating position, riding position, where are you at with it?
So it's interesting because obviously this is an adventure bike test. This has got adventure written all over it. And KTM, well, they're known for how good they make adventure bikes.
Yep.
But you jump on this and it does not have that feel for an adventure bike at all. It feels like a Duke rather than an 890 Adventure R or a 1290 Super Adventure. It definitely feels like the most road biased of the lot. And because of that, it's a cracking road bike. The WP works really well. It's still a bit buzzy, but you can sit at motorway speeds. The screen does a reasonable job. The dash is quite nice on it. And as a road bike, it does actually perform really well. I quite enjoyed it. And to be honest, it's probably the one that I would take if I was going to do all my stuff on the road. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's got nice touches in it. It's got the quick shifter, which is nice, and it feels sporty. It's obviously the only bike with a 19-inch front wheel, which
makes such a difference.
Yeah, it makes a difference for changing the direction. Obviously, we put knobbly tyres on it, but you're right. It's very wide here, so that as a result doesn't make it particularly low. It feels like a sort of a road bike dressed up as an off-road bike, rather than what you would expect. Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
What you'd expect from a KTM, but. I think you're right. I think the power, it's the most powerful bike here, and the way it generates the power, you know, it's revvy, it's engaging,
exciting,
it's all those things that if you're only riding on the road, it's right up there in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly that. But because of that, I'd say it's been the hardest to ride off-road for someone of my level. How did you find it?
Off-road, it was a challenge. Obviously, it was quite low grip. They've had a lot of rain here, and having that 19-inch front doesn't do it any favours. It really doesn't. The front felt loose. It just felt, the riding position for me, I could never really feel like I could make the difference I wanted.
Yeah.
Just from the width of the seat, the handlebar position. It's like the pegs are quite high, the bars, they're not low, but there's something, that sort of relationship. Whereas you jump on an 890 and you stand up on the pegs and you go,
it's made
this
for
is
that.
right, this is how it should be. This literally feels the absolute opposite. You wouldn't believe they'd ever made an off-road bike.
No, it's not really an adventure. Like as soon as we got out, like where we were riding today, obviously it's not gnarly, it's not covered in like enduro style obstacles. It's basically like a controlled green lane that we could ride on. And as soon as we got out, while it was like slick and just a little bit wet on top, you're just basically hoping the front wheel goes in the right direction. Because of that 19, it works so well on the road, but as soon as you get off road, and we put some better Bridgestone AX41 tyres on all of these bikes as well. It's a tyre that's built for off-road and on-road, and the purpose of putting them all on the same tyre just means that every bike gets a fair crack of the whip. And even with that, you just felt disconnected. And like you say, when you're standing up, it's so unnatural. It sort of eggs you over the top. The distance between where you're standing, where your legs end up, and where the bars come back is just really unnatural. And it's something that I wasn't expecting, considering how much I love the KTMs, the bigger bikes off-road. They are amazing, and I was a bit underwhelmed, if I'm honest.
I mean, when I sort of tried to ride it a bit harder, I actually enjoyed it though.
The danger,
Yeah,
the danger, not the
It
ease.
felt like sketchy and it felt
Yeah.
alive, you know, that sort of feeling you get when you're on the road, when you are riding it that much harder. It felt like that, but I don't know, you wouldn't want to be doing it all day.
No.
You know, I think it would end in tears.
It gets you tired as well, because
Yeah.
you are fighting it a little
And
bit.
it's low as well, you can see how low it is.
Yeah.
It's not, it's definitely a better road bike than an off-road bike.
Yeah, definitely. If you are predominantly a road rider, this is a lovely thing. If you're looking to do, like you said earlier, like dry gravel, like soft fire roads, stuff like that, it is capable of doing that. But anything more, it finds its limits really easily.
Yeah.
And it is a bit of a handful. We was having so much fun on these as well. We thought we'd do some lap times on them, but we haven't actually told
No.
our test pilot what the times are. We're going to tell him at the end, so we'll have a
I've been
little guess.
looking
We'll
in
have a
their
little bit
eyes
of
to try
gauge.
and get a gauge.
But as this was the best road bike that didn't perform off-road, now we're going to sort of move on to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, aren't we?
Yeah. So moving on to the 300 Rally, you know, incredibly popular bike for exactly this, you know, either the 300 or the 300L. You know, you don't have to go far riding and you'll see one of these bikes for good reason.
Yeah.
But I guess just looking at it, you can see it is very much aimed at the off-road market. So starting with the road side of things, obviously the least powerful bike here,
Yeah.
the least capacity bike here. How was your experience on the road with the competition?
Yeah, so exactly that. If you're going to be doing, well, it depends what you class as an adventure, but I'd like to see on an adventure bike, you know, big miles on the road, long days, and even just the motorway mileage on this, straight away, it's buzzy, it's sitting at the top, it's when you're doing overtakes from like 60 mile an hour onwards, it's just very laboured. Obviously it's a step up from the old 250, it's been out a couple of years now, but it's still, you really got to sort of think about it when you're riding it. And it's sort of got that soft laziness to it as well. If you're looking to ride in more of like a spirited fashion, it's not a bike that truly inspires confidence on the road. It's really soft, it's really sluggish, both on the throttle, through the engine and through the suspension setup as well. So it's almost a compromise on the road for, well, a bit more of an easier ride off-road. What did you think when you was?
Yeah, I mean on road, there's no doubt that, you know, the speed in which you can sort of comfortably sit at.
Yeah.
Look, it could sit at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, it can.
You know,
Yeah.
and no real dramas. But if you have got some road mileage to do, or like you say, the overtaking, if you ended up putting another 15, 20 kilos of luggage on it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly that.
It is underpowered. And I
And
think
in this competition as well, in this arena, with these other bikes, that really exacerbates it. You can sort of get away with it on its own, or if you're with another bike that is a 300 Rally or a Vosges or something like that.
Yeah.
But as soon as you've got something with just that tiny bit more, it really makes it obvious.
Yeah. And I also found that, like you said, the suspension, you know, like the amount of dive you get when you hit the brake. You know, look, anyone who's watching this and knows the CRF, you know, will know that there's a lot of companies doing aftermarket suspension.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like screaming out for it. We're obviously riding the bike stock because that's how we need to be testing and evaluating these things. So there are ways to resolve it, but I guess that doesn't figure the engine side of things.
Yeah, you just wish it had that little bit more power, that little bit more excitement, just
Yeah.
a little bit more punch. If it was a CRF 450 Rally,
Yeah.
like it would just
Oh, it'd be
answer all my questions. I'd probably go out and buy one
Yeah.
tomorrow. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it is such an easy, capable, friendly machine that sort of does everything well, but does nothing incredibly.
No, it doesn't. No.
So what did you make of it when you were sort of riding it a bit softer off-road?
So softer off-road, it's by far the lightest bike here.
Yeah.
So that is a massive help, you know, just from getting it off the stand to just changing direction. Just it feels more manageable. We've had to do a lot of turning around
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and it's good. It feels compliant. You know, the suspension's soft. It's like sort of
Yeah.
puts his arm around you and says,
Yeah.
"Oh, you know, we'll be fine."
I think it's worth mentioning as well that even though the seat height's quite high, because the suspension is so soft,
Yeah.
even someone of my height, I'm 5'7", it still sags enough that you can get a foot down wherever you want. It's not
Yeah.
like you're on a big sort of
No.
Desert X Rally or something like that
No.
where you're off the edge. It is friendly.
And then it was interesting because I kind of very much had this as I thought it was going to like wipe the floor with everything, and it may well do because you won't tell me. But I really found that the suspension was just the limiting factor, and I didn't have confidence. You know, it's quite whoopy here.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the worst case scenario of the suspension, you know, crashing through the stroke, bottoming out, then rebounding, and then leaves you in a bit of a mess, knowing you've got another whoop to come.
Yes,
you know, so it's
yeah.
a little bit unnerving. I mean, and the power is very accessible, but like you said, it's
soft.
It's so soft.
Yeah.
It's got no punch. And that whole setup. If you were in like, you know, a bottom of a gnarly, rocky climb, and it's the end of the day and you're worn out,
Yeah.
it's actually what you want, because like I say, it's going to sort of look after you.
Yeah.
But I guess
Getting it sideways and stuff, it doesn't have that.
it doesn't have that
Yeah.
punch. I mean, for me, you know, I'd probably, if I wanted this sort of bike to go off road, I'd go the 300L.
Yes.
Because it's that much lighter. Yeah, you don't have quite as much tank capacity. You don't have the screen, but if off-road's your thing, it's an even more sort of user-friendly, manageable thing, and it's obviously a little bit lighter. Right, Enfield.
So now we're moving on to the new additions
new
to the
bikes,
class.
yeah.
So obviously you rode this on the world launch.
Yep.
What did you make of it when you was riding it around the Himalayas?
I really enjoyed it. I came back from that thinking that it was a really usable package. I was impressed, you know, riding it back to back with the old 411. You know, the engine is so much more powerful. You know, the options it gives you on the road and the connection you have. You know, it was so lazy, the old one. You know, such a long stroke motor. And it had its charms, don't get me wrong, and I understand why people like it. But this is very much next generation. I was also impressed with the suspension. It's non-adjustable, but it's quality kit. It's Showa suspension, and this is a heavy bike. You know, it's just sort of shy of 200 kilos. Let's be honest. So I found I was quite impressed with the way that it suspended the bike and dealt with that amount of weight, both on and off road. What did you think of the sort of road performance and the road manners?
I think the first thing that really gets me about this bike, so coming from someone who would go for more of a traditional naked or traditional adventure bike, the first thing you feel is sort of that old school charm to it. Like it's almost, I know it's got way more punch, but especially in this competition, it almost borders on lethargic in terms of how long and how stable it is, but it makes it really nice and easy to corner because you can literally just sort of rail around and it just does its own thing, and it's so calm and collected. Considering the weight, it never sort of ties itself in knots, and the chassis and the suspension setup works really nicely for that calm and easy, gentle ride. If you want something to like cruise around on and pick up some mileage on, it's brilliant for that, isn't it? On the road, it's just a real nice, friendly package. And yeah, although it does weigh a fair amount, on the road it's not too bad because you've got obviously that new motor. It never feels too slow and too lethargic. It's sort of where the handling's pretty chilled out, the engine's just got about enough to sort of carry it along, isn't it?
I enjoyed when we were having some riding on those sort of 45, 50, 55, 60 mile an hour corners. It was just a really nice place to be. You know, it just holds the line really well, feels well supported, and like you say, you've got enough acceleration that you can accelerate out. I think it's very much a nice place to be. Yeah. But the weight I do find a little bit offensive. If I'm honest.
For a bike of this capacity, it should be illegal for it to be that heavy. But to be honest, the only thing that maybe I didn't enjoy about it was that it just didn't feel like it had much charm or excitement for me. Like you jump on the KTM and it's just really, it just wants to go and it wants to be ridden, but it can be ridden calm and chilled out. This sort of, it has just one option, and that is to be calm and chilled. Like I almost just feel like I should be sitting on it in an open face helmet with like a nice like sea denim jacket. Yeah. I think like there's definitely a place for that, and that is the charm that a lot of people will love. But if you want something that's a bit more exciting, I think there are some other machines out there that deliver it. What did you think of it in the dirt?
So when we were trying to sort of push it and ride it a bit harder, it was definitely my like cattiest lap. Yeah. You know, I stalled it once and I missed the gear. It was, you know, look, that's me. You know, I can't put the blame on that. But I felt scrappy with it. I felt like sort of when I sort of started asking more of it and trying to sort of up the pace,
Yeah.
it didn't give me anything back. And then the sort of second half of the lap, it is a bit more flowing, and I really had to sort of make a conscious decision to sort of, you know, just sort of like back down, back off, take a breath, and ride it smooth. And it's got that same thing where it will rail around the corners quite nicely, but it feels heavy for changing direction. And I found the pegs low. It was the only bike that I actually clipped some of the bankings on either side, you know. And again, you know, I have to take some blame. I don't think it was my I don't think it was my cleanest lap by any stretch, but I guess it's like it feels it's a really comfortable package. You could ride it all day, but if you really want to start sort of pushing it, I think you're going to sort of go outside of its comfort zone quite easily.
I think that is the thing. Like you find that it's quite long, it's quite low, it's quite stable in the way that it sort of reacts. And one thing that I struggled about this on the off-road stuff was it feels like the gearing's quite long, so you're sort of in between. You want to be using second on pretty much every bike here, but on this you're right at the bottom of second, and the rear brake doesn't actually give you a lot of feel.
No,
so you're sort of I stalled it as well when I was riding it, because you're sort of on the clutch and you can't really get that feeling through the rear brake that you do on every other bike here, even the KTM, and it just makes it that little bit difficult. And then you're thinking about it, and as soon as you're thinking about it, you're already behind yourself, and it's sort of it wasn't the most natural bike for me to feel comfortable on, if I'm honest. No.
But again, it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, someone who's going to buy this isn't the same person that's going to buy a 300 EXE. Who's going to be, you know, we have to sort of try and play sort of devil's advocate. But what we're trying to do is just highlight, you know, what's good and what's bad when we're sort of pushing it slightly outside of their comfort zone, you know, to hopefully that gives you some, you know, some good information.
to show you it across the whole range of riders that don't do as much off-roading, that are more experienced on the road. That's the whole point of this test, and it did impress me. But to be honest, the thing that impressed me more is sitting next to it.
Yes. Yeah, so this really is a new kid on the block. You know, it's the first time it's garnered a lot of interest, and it's a twin, which is straight away is you know, all these bikes are singles.
The odd one out.
This class has always been full of singles, you know, and this is a twin, the first kind of twin to market in this class, I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's going to be, isn't it?
Yeah. So what was your take on it on the road? Because it's obviously looked quite different, I think, to all these other bikes.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to look at this, because I've ridden quite a lot of CF Motos, and every single one is just incrementally getting better and better as like their involvement with Pierre and KTM is really benefiting them. I wasn't sure what to expect from this, because obviously it's packed with a load of stuff. It's got adjustable suspension, it's got really nice tubeless. Yeah, it's got loads on it. Like, you could just list it forever, and it's priced really well as well. And when you jump on it, like, it feels like a well-built, bigger adventure bike. It almost feels sort of into the middleweight sizes, like your V-Stroms, like your Transalps, like your Tenerés. It almost has that sort of stature to it when you're sitting in it. And I say sitting in it because it is quite a strange riding position as well, isn't it? I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but the seat really dips down. You can see how high the tank is and how low the seat is. So you go to swing a leg over it and you sort of just sit down into it. If you're a shorter height, if you've got sort of less leg length, it's going to be really beneficial for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed this on the road. The engine is really responsive, it's really exciting. It has the best sound across all of these bikes.
By a long way.
It's the only one that we can even hear in the woods. I think probably my only gripe with it, which is quite a big gripe, is that it is aggressive on the initial throttle pickup. It is obnoxiously aggressive, isn't it?
It's like, we're off.
It goes from like 0 to 15% instantly, whereas everything else goes from like 0 to 5 or 6%. That's what it feels like. But aside from that, the engine is lovely. It's really characterful. Yeah, it makes a great noise. It sits at 70 happily, and the riding position is really nice too. For when you're riding in the corners, it actually feels like it's got a proper chassis and a suspension setup that's dialed in to be ridden in a reasonably spirited way. It feels lovely, doesn't it?
It feels like a bigger bike.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say. It feels like you'd expect from sort of a middleweight adventure bike.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it obviously doesn't have that same amount of power, but in terms of, you know, the dash setup, you know, adjustable screen, it feels a bit more
feels classy,
premium.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
which is kind of feels a strange thing to say, you know, from CF
You
Moto.
sort of expect the opposite without being just on past machinery, but
Yeah.
now, like, this thing it's been faultless so far, and to be honest, it's been a really enjoyable ride on the road. It's got a good package, yeah, the adjustable screen's really good, you get quite a lot of wind protection, it's got a comfy seat, whereas bikes like the Enfield had a really uncomfortable seat on that Rally Edition.
Yeah, I don't remember the standard seat being anywhere near as bad as that.
That was brutal,
it's
wasn't it?
strange.
And this has just been, yeah, it's a really nice package on the road. And then obviously we brought it here and took it off-road. What do you think?
Yeah, again, I was kind of a little bit sceptical because of the physical size, you know, this sort of carrying its weight high, and, you know, all this is nice, by the way, don't you think? It's all,
Yeah, it's finished lovely.
It's finished nice, and the cable routing, etc., etc. But I really enjoyed this off-road. It was more forgiving than I thought. I wouldn't want to be stuck in the bottom of a big climb or something like that with it, but for the riding we've been doing, you know, I think it holds its weight well. I think the suspension's good. You know, like I've mentioned, you know, there's quite a lot of whoops out there, and I think I was getting quite nervous with some of the bikes because I felt like I should be going quicker, but I was also wanted to go home tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to end up in having a big moment. This, I was able to it felt like I could ride them quicker and ride them
Safer.
Yeah. I had sort of more confidence, and the motors, I was able to not be on that 0% throttle, and also, you know, a bit of clutch and a bit of back brake, so I didn't that sort of, you know, that initial sort of throttle connection, didn't have a problem with that, and it felt playful, you know.
Yes.
I did enjoy it. I don't know, I can't work out whether I was quick on it or not. I genuinely can't, because there was a couple of times where, because the motor is so playful, I probably arrived a few places maybe a little bit too fast,
yeah,
and had to sort of rein myself in. But like I've said, you know, the second half of the lap is a little bit more flowing, and I was more dialed into the bike. You know, we've obviously spent lots of time on the bikes anyway, but I kind of enjoyed that, and like they say, that engine note, and yeah, as a package, I definitely had a smile on my face. So it was, it's a good bit of kit.
Yeah, it surprised me as well, because like we said about the seat height earlier, you can stand up and you feel comfortable standing because of where the bars are placed. But if you do find yourself in a bit of bother, it's so easy to get a safety dab. It is an easy bike to ride, and the throttle isn't as bad off-road when you're already at that initial bit. It's when you're at the 0 on the road you really get it. Whereas off-road, it actually helps out just getting it turned a little bit, just getting some spin. And
you've got some really instant sort of drive.
Almost feels like it's punching above its sort of power and capacity in a way. But it's been really impressive actually, isn't it?
Yeah,
overall package. And for a first stab at a bike in this class as well, with this stature that's come to the UK, it's seriously impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with it, definitely.
So we've done the road ride, but in order to see how these bikes really perform, we wanted to bring them somewhere where we could, well, get the very best out of them. So instead of doing some normal green lanes and stuff, we've come here. It's at Hit the Dirt in Swaffham, and basically what we're doing is, well, what you're doing is sending them as hard as you can. So what you got planned?
Well, yeah, not quite as hard as I can. So obviously these bikes, you know, people are going to use them for everyday adventure stuff. So I think the idea of coming to sort of a closed circuit is to try and understand, you know, I'm planning on not necessarily completely sending it as Carl suggested, but kind of riding at a pace I feel comfortable with. And I think because of the way the bikes are and the differences, we should see that in potentially in a bit of a lap time. The course, as you know, we've been riding it all day, so we know the course well. It's pretty gnarly. They've had a lot of rain here, so it's quite slippery. We're obviously on 50/50 tyres, so it's a bit sketchy out there, isn't it, in places?
Yeah, it's good, but I think it's pretty much like most green lanes most time of the year. And obviously we've ridden them all morning, we've got a feel for the track, we sort of know how they feel, but we just wanted to put a bit of a sort of marker down, so we thought this was going to be quite fun. So we're going to pick some keys out of the hat, just to keep it fair, and you're going to do a medium hot lap on each and see how you get on.
Yeah, okay.
So
right, okay.
Eyes shut. All right.
Hey.
Go on then. Easy.
Oh, got entangled.
Oh, so
Right, the KTM 390 Adventure SW. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
390 is the only bike with a 19-inch front wheel, which does make it a little bit sketchy. It's not the nicest riding position, too much weight over the front. I'm just putting seesaw in there. I'm just in second gear. Oh, little, it's unstable there as you're just crashing through the stroke of the fork, and it's just not really working that well. Oh, he just doesn't soak up those sort of impacts. This is a nicer bit of the track. He's bottoming out there. Oh, jumping, crossed up. I mean, it's good fun, don't get me wrong. You always got to chase those ruts. Oh, bottom in front, bottom in the rear. Oh, and again, it feels like a road bike. It feels like a road bike you're trying to make do with in an off-road situation. Coming to the end of the lap now.
Go on.
What did you say it was?
I reckon between 3 and 3.5.
3 minutes, 15 seconds. that is
was-
the benchmark.
That was
laid
good. That
down.
was quicker than I thought it was.
Hey.
How was that?
I got a pant on, put it that way. It's quite hard work, just from the fact that you know what it's like, you know what the course is like. You know when you get in these whoops,
Yeah, it's a big deep
and you can
whoop.
sort of see them coming, but the trouble is, as soon as you start attacking them, you know, the bottoms, you're bottoming out the rear,
It's not a lot of ground.
you're bottoming
clearance,
out the
is
front.
there? Yeah.
It's just the riding position, it just doesn't feel, it's like the pegs are too high, the bars are too low. But look, you know, we got round. I think that time's not going to be, I think that's going to be pretty respectable.
Well,
thing.
let's get you kitted up on the next one then.
All right, yeah, thanks. Right.
3, 2, 1, go!
Right, CRF 300 Rally. So arguably the most off-road bike here because feels it's lighter. It's the lightest bike on test. Not feeling that comfortable on it, I've got to admit. At the moment, a lot of suspension travel. Oh, right. Need to let feel a bit tatty here. So he doesn't have the punch of the KTM. Bad line there. Just the suspension. Just not giving me the confidence. You see how that's kicking me out of the seat? Oh, that's that bit.
Here
Go
we
on.
come.
Dropped under the 3-minute barrier.
Just under 3 minutes. So
Fuck.
pints on the loser, is it?
Oh, damn it. What do you reckon?
I thought that suspension travel was going to kind of like help it absorb some of those whoops, but just ended up in the same situation as the KTM really,
Yeah.
crashing through the stroke and then rebounding up, lost the front round the back there.
And saved it.
Yeah,
Would you have been able to have done that on the KTM?
well, debatable. The first half of the lap doesn't flow,
Yeah.
and I was like literally the way I felt I was tatty, loose, making mistakes, and didn't feel any faster. It will be interesting. I mean, you're not going to tell me the time, I know. I'm trying to look for some indication.
Poker
Nothing,
face, mate.
nothing.
Poker
They are
face.
poker face. What about
Do
you?
you think it was faster than the KTM?
Or slower?
If it's faster, it's minimal.
Okay, interesting.
Sweet.
What
It's
is
not-
what's the strongest asset of it? What's the bit it does really well?
It changes direction, but that's because it weighs less. But I really want to know.
No. Right, let's get you hooked up on number 3.
Okay.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
Right, Royal Enfield Himalayan One of the heaviest bikes on the test, but good suspension to be fair. Let's roll it round. Really strong back brake. Oh, just folded the front there. Hit the floor with my pegs in. Oh. Stalling it. The back brake is so fierce. It's so easy to lock up. I keep hitting my footrests on the side of the banking. It's twice I've done that now. All sorts of mistakes here. Not riding well. It's all gone really to pot here. It's like it doesn't like to be rushed. So it rails round that quite nicely. Okay, coming to the finish now. Just getting that weight transfer.
Gonna make it!
Just so the Enfield just
So that
only narrowly
is
beat the
only
KTM.
just quicker than the KTM. The Honda
So-
still has a comfortable lead.
Say that again.
Awful.
Why?
Just stalled it.
Ah.
Stalled it on the back brake. The first half of that was scrappy.
Yeah.
If I was, I'd have got a bollocking from the team manager, you know what I mean? Big time. I think to sum it up, it doesn't like to be rushed.
Yeah. It's long. It's like it was on the road. It's long. It's stable. It's almost a little bit lethargic.
Yeah, but there was a couple of times where I was able to sort of rail it round the corners and it felt real nice.
Yeah.
But I think I lost a bit of confidence early on in the lap, to be honest. And I was sort of kept on telling myself, the second half of the lap will be better, and it was. But I missed a gear. It was amateur hour. So I've enjoyed this bike, and I have to admit, my preconception coming into this was as a mixture of on and off road, this could be the ticket. But if you want to ride hard, it's possibly not. It's much more, an everyday kind of travel bike, the way I see it.
Yeah.
Three down, one to go.
Right, nice one.
You ready? Ready. Right, 3, 2, 1, go!
Launch CF Moto 450 MT, the new kid on the block. Lovely parallel twin motor, but it's a big bike. It feels big at the minute, I'll be honest. See how it handles this. Pretty good, to be fair. Into the rut, drop into the rut, drive out there, loose there. Oh, big moment there, turned in too much, had to have a dab. Feels like it's flowing, doesn't feel particularly fast. The way it picks up's lovely though. Starting to enjoy it now, apart from that front end. Nice. I'm enjoying it. That's
Here we go. Oh!
That's close.
Well, what a surprise.
Wow.
Did not expect that. That was 3:08, so we're only fractionally quicker than the Enfield there. And the winner is the Honda.
It by
a
out the
mile.
mile. The one that looks like an enduro bike.
So it turns out that
Surprisingly.
weight is really important on off-road bikes.
And power
Who
isn't.
would have thought that?
Power isn't, yeah.
Right, well, there we go. Now, no
Yeah,
spoilers.
poker face.
See what he says, see whether he enjoyed it.
What do you reckon to that?
I enjoyed that. A few moments, just kind of losing the front on the exit. The power's like ace.
Yeah.
The power's really nice because it's really, it doesn't necessarily have more horsepower than the other bikes, even though it's a twin. But that throttle connection, as long as you're out of that, you know, we've spoken about the
aggressive
it's a bit aggressive. As long as you're on the throttle and you've got some sort of throttle dialed in, just felt really nice. You could just be a bit more playful with it. But on the flip side, there were times where, you know, the exhaust note, you get a bit excited and maybe you're going probably a little bit too fast. But definitely the best suspension.
Really?
Yeah. The way that it was, you know, those sort of whoops over the back, there's a couple of situations and one right at the end, or towards the end of the lap, you know, like 3/4 of the way through. And I just, you know, I said about not having the confidence on the Enfield. And I was like, you know, look, it's the last bike. We want to go home tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so, you know, you're riding with something in reserve. But I just felt that there's a few times earlier where it is like that. And I was like, that's handling those really well. So I was actually quite surprised. I think it was probably, I don't know what the times are, but I think it was the most fun.
Yeah.
Apart from, I think if you were getting into sort of some gnarly stuff, I think this bulk, the height, that obviously are making it such a, you know, it's like a middleweight adventure bike, isn't it? You know, in terms of how it's loaded and everything. That is going to be a handicap if you ended up having to be picking the thing up or dabbing your way through it. But somewhere like here where you can ride it, yeah, I enjoyed that.
Did you think then overall this had the best engine for off-roading and the best suspension?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. I think the engine, whether it is in the purest sense the best engine, I don't know.
The most enjoyable.
But for the most enjoyable, for the noise, for that throttle connection, like I say, once you've got past that initial tap, it was fun. And I think maybe the reason I was losing the front was because I was getting on the gas earlier.
Yeah.
And, you know, just sort of, you know, like folding the front a little bit. I had a couple of dabs.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed that. That surprised me. And it's very neutral. There wasn't, you know, like from the KTM, you're just thinking, what is this riding position?
Yeah.
You know, why is it built like this? On this, it's almost like it didn't sort of occur to me. But you said that. I think the seating position's a bit weird on the road. I think it's so low, but when you're actually stood up, you know, I'm 5'9", it's a good, well balanced. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And like things like the back brake, you know, got plenty of feel. You're not like the Enfield, you know,
brakes are lovely.
Yeah, and I didn't hit any. Must be narrower than the Enfield because I didn't clip any. And the Enfield's the only bike that I've clipped any of the bankings on. So
cracking job.
yeah,
4 bikes, 4 laps, and well,
go
you
home.
succeeded. Yeah.
4 beers?
4 beers.
four beers. Nice one.
So you started off with the KTM.
Yep,
You then went to the Honda.
yep,
You then went to the Enfield.
yeah.
You then went to the CF Moto. So, where would you rank them? I
I'm
won't
not-
ask you to give you times because obviously you've got no
No.
benchmark, but I'm going to ask you to put them in order of where you think they finished.
Well, I'm going to go 4th Enfield,
4th Enfield.
3rd KTM,
Yep.
2nd Honda, 1st this.
Ooh.
What?
So, in 4th place, the KTM,
Right. Okay.
and that was a 3-minute 15.53.
Okay.
3rd place, the Enfield,
Right. Okay. So I've got 'em
3:11.
right, so I've actually got them right. 3:11. Right. Okay.
3:11.89.
Scrappy lap.
2nd, CF Moto,
Was it? Okay.
3:08.21. So it's 7 seconds quicker than the KTM, 3 seconds quicker than the Enfield.
Yeah. Okay.
And first, the CRF, 2:59.6.
Wow.
You're 15
So it's-
seconds than the KTM. You're 8 seconds quicker
See,
than the CF Moto, and 11 seconds quicker on the Enfield.
See, that's the logic said
Yeah.
that, exactly that, because of that weight. That's amazing. I didn't,
It was the one that you looked the least happiest with when you came in,
yeah,
because it was just
I felt like I was just,
pottering.
yeah, I just wasn't able to, I felt like there were times where I should be able to carry speed and make speed and attack it a bit, and I just felt I didn't have the confidence in it. I had a few bombing outs, and you have a few of those, and you're like, well, I survived that one, but what's the next one going to sort of throw at me?
Because
kind
yeah,
of
'cause
thing.
it looks and feels like an
But
enduro
I
bike
guess
when you get on it.
That
and
comes down to the fact, you know, you've got 50 kilos, well, best part of 50 kilos less. That's interesting. And that should be the fastest.
And it is,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it is. So
by
that's-
a considerable margin. But that shows it sort of shows the trade-off between its road ability and its off-road ability, doesn't it?
Yeah. But then I think I enjoyed that more. Enjoyed the lap on this.
And that was 3 seconds quicker than the Enfield.
Wow. But like I say, it was a scrappy lap.
Yeah, I reckon you dropped a second for stalling it, but even then,
stop. I just
kept it going.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the times. Obviously, we just did that for a bit of fun. But how would you rank them from 4th to 1st if you're purely looking at sort of 80–85% off-road? If you're buying them just on off-road ability.
So 4th would be the KTM.
Yep.
3rd would be the Enfield.
Yep.
2nd would be the CF Moto, and the Honda wins if you're doing, if off-road's your thing.
Yeah.
That's the one.
It's funny because that's for someone of your level, and it's the exact same for someone of my level as well. So yeah, that's absolutely perfect.
And then from a road point of view,
in 4th it's the CRF because it's just not the most comfortable on the road. In 3rd, it's really tight between the Enfield and the KTM, and it sort of comes down to what you prefer as a rider. If you want something that's a bit sort of spicier and a bit more aggressive and fun, or if you want something chilled out and relaxed.
Yeah.
So I still like a bit of excitement in my life, so I'd go Enfield 3rd, KTM 2nd, and I'd actually put the CF Moto 1st just because of its all-round usability. It hits so many markers, as in it's comfortable, it's roomy, it's got a really good screen, really good dash, it's got a really good package that sort of hits more markers than the rest of them.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
And it's just, well, if you had them two together, then the CF Moto is our winner.
Yeah. So we're in agreement, Carl. We've ridden these bikes on and off-road for a good couple of days to miles, and the CF Moto MT450 is our winner of our small adventure bike class. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe to see more videos like this.
This MCM video has been produced in partnership with Bikeshore Insurance.